Welcome in everybody to a special Q&A episode of the 49ers podcast. I'm Matt Daniel, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host John Gallagher. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Living the dream. Today we're going to do it a little different. We're going to be doing some Q&A, obviously, talking 49ers, fantasy, video games, all the good stuff. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun time.
Hell yes.
All right, so before we get into that, obviously follow us on Twitter, 49erverse, on YouTube as well, 49erverse podcast. You can find me at Matt_NFL_ and John at Genghis_John_. Are you ready to get into it?
Oh, born ready.
Born ready. Love to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
So there isn't really any news to touch on before it, so we might as well just hop right in.
Yeah.
All right, so our first question comes from Sam over at Fantasy Scouts, FF Ball all day. He's the co-creator of Fantasy Scouts, who I'm a writer for right now, actually. Make sure to go follow him and follow the Fantasy Scouts Twitter as well.
Mm-hmm.
Great dude. So the first question is, if you could go back in time, would you rather go back in time and draft Watson or keep Lance now? I'll let you hit that one first.
Okay, so I have questions about the question, though. So do I know what I know now about Watson's legal issues when I hop in my time machine?
I think yes, because if you don't, then it's too easy.
That's what I'm saying. So if I know what I know about Watson's murky legal situation, it's pretty easy for me to stick with Lance. If there's no legal situation and we're just talking about Deshaun Watson and there isn't that dark cloud hanging over, dude, if we're talking about football talent, I love Deshaun Watson. Yeah. But the legal issues right now, the penalties that he might face, and the suspension that the NFL could give out, even if it doesn't lead to like legal ramifications for him, the NFL could still suspend him for conduct, and I don't love that. So if that's the criteria right now for Deshaun Watson, then I'm gonna stick with Lance.
Yeah, and I think from a morality standpoint, obviously, I mean, we don't know whether or not it's true or any of the allegations are true. But one thing to factor into this, though, is if we have Deshaun Watson, we probably win the Super Bowl in 2019. I mean, you can't tell me that Deshaun Watson wasn't enough of a difference maker, that much better than Jimmy G to have made us win that game. So it does make it hard, but I'll still say no. Well, I'll stick with Lance. I mean, hopefully Lance can turn into someone like Deshaun Watson. I mean, obviously, if we're going off pure talent, I would take Watson, but that's not the world we live in, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, just to go back, if we go back and we take Watson, and then we never get Jimmy G, and then so Jimmy G never gets hurt, and then we never lose all those games, does that mean so we get Watson, we don't draft Bosa? We're looking at a different player after that?
So Watson was drafted in what year? He was drafted. That would have been Mahomes. That would have been the same year that we got, we got Bosa the year before Deshaun Watson, right? Or the year after Deshaun Watson.
After.
So yeah. So that is a good point. We wouldn't have had Bosa. I mean, the trade-off for the pick would have been Solomon Thomas, which is a no-brainer. I mean, pretty much anyone you took in that draft not named Patrick Mahomes would have been the right choice with Watson.
Yeah, right.
That's what I'm saying. Watson would have been next,
Yeah,
so I don't know. I mean, it's a hard question. Off talent, it's an easy one, but so let's go Candlestick or Levi's. So I've never even been to Candlestick. Have you been to Candlestick?
I have been to Candlestick. I haven't seen a game at Levi's, so this is we have a good perspective here.
Okay, so I will go first on this one. I say Levi's. I can't find it hard to imagine that Levi's or Candlestick is better for a reason that's not nostalgia. A lot of people do complain. A lot of people do complain about the sun at Levi's or something.
Right.
I've heard a lot of people complain about it. Every game I've been to, and I've been on like the sun side that people complain about, and it didn't bother me at all. So
didn't get crispy.
I didn't get crispy. One of them was a Monday night game, so it wasn't like
that
later.
Probably helped.
But the other one was like a noon start or whatever, 1 o'clock start.
Okay.
But I can't really tell you about Candlestick.
So let me tell you a little bit about Candlestick. Okay. So no nostalgia at all. We're just going to talk about the natural environment of Candlestick. When that bay breeze starts rolling in, there's electricity in the air. All right. It gets the players juiced, and it's hard to beat when the Bay Breeze is rolling in and you're in the city. It's hard to beat a game at Candlestick. I haven't seen football there. I've only seen a handful of Giants games growing up when I lived in San Jose. But I can say that there's an energy there when the city starts feeling right, when the breeze is rolling in, that it's so fun to watch a game.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, you can't really put into words, or I guess you just kind of did put it into words. You can't really like give a statistical number to like the feel, you know.
Dude,
that,
there was a feel at Candlestick. You know? Yeah.
So I mean, I was born and raised in Washington. So and my family are all Seahawks fans. So obviously they weren't going to be flying me down to any Candlestick games. But unfortunately, I mean, I went to the ruins after they had turned it down. When I was down there for the Levi's game, so that's the closest I've been. But so the next one, this one's also from Sam. Who's your number 2 all-time quarterback? Assuming we both are in agreement that Brady's won, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's just
it's hard for me to lean. But it's Montana, man. That's the guy. Yeah. But you know what? It is in today's NFL for Brady to do what he's done. It's fucking tremendous. So if I have to pick between Montana or Peyton, I love Peyton Manning, but I'd pick Montana.
Yeah, I also lean Montana.
And I don't think that's homerism. I don't. I know this is a Niner podcast. Yeah. I know that
it's tough. It's like Kobe versus LeBron, right? It's like, how do you weigh? It's hard to weigh it, right?
Yeah.
I think Manning has him in like regular season statistics and all that kind of stuff, but it's just like the playoff dominance that Montana had, and just the way what he brought to your NFL team and what he brought to really the NFL in general.
Yeah.
The moments that he brought. Not to say Peyton didn't have his moments as well.
Yeah, no, the Sheriff is amazing. I love Peyton Manning.
Oh, me too.
But I think if we're talking about one of the
Niners,
yeah. Easily, and it's so easy. It's so easy to respect him and respect his game. It's just I think Montana was so good for so long and so consistent in his playoff appearances as well, in his Super Bowl appearances, that I think that it's him.
Yeah, I agree. I think. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if anybody in chat is not a 49ers fan, I'm interested to see. It's funny because it seemed like Montana was kind of like the consensus GOAT. For a long time,
right?
Especially growing up, it was just like Jordan was the GOAT, and Montana was the GOAT, right? Or Jerry, but quarterbacks, it was Joe Montana. But it seems like over the years, there's kind of been a shift. I don't know if it's because people got to see more Manning and Brady. I mean, obviously Brady has taken over at this point, but
well, that's what I'm. So really Montana had that. Montana had that run that nobody had seen. Like nobody had seen that many appearances and that many wins in the Super Bowl, and they hadn't seen it until Tom Brady showed up. Yeah. And then once he did it and showed it and did it, he's got 6 rings now. He needs 2 hands. It's hard to argue now.
Yeah, you can't really argue at this point. I was talking to I was on the
7 rings now.
Yes, 7, I think, right?
Because he might have 1 with Tampa. Yeah, right? Is it 6 with the Patriots and 7 and 1 with
6? Yes, I'm pretty sure. I'm like 99% sure. Yeah, pretty close. Yeah. Yeah, I think we can move on from that. In agreement that Montana's number 2.
Yeah.
Hate to say it, but it is what it is. All right, so our next question comes in from Lobos Fantasy Football Den. Make sure to follow him at Lobos FF Den. He's a big up and coming guy in the fantasy community. He's a super genuine guy. He's a big supporter of the show. So make sure you go out and follow him. His question is, who's the wide receiver to own in San Francisco, Debo or Ayuk? I'm assuming redraft or dynasty, just like in general. Who are you going with?
So it depends on how I'm building my team. Like if I'm prioritizing like ultra running back heavy, Debo will be there very late, or at least late, in the mid rounds to take him. Yeah. I don't. So I have to know like where they're thinking they want. So like, who's the receiver to own in what capacity? Like, do you think they're going to be put up the wide receiver 1 numbers? Do you think they're going to, like in fantasy football? Do you
I just think like in general. I mean, I think the obvious answer is just say Ayuk. I mean, if you're choosing between the two, seems like
I don't know if it's that. So for me, it's not that obvious just because the Shanahan offense isn't this, like, oh, that's our wide receiver, we feed him the ball. Like the way that they use Debo, if he's healthy, like he's in the game a lot, getting touches out of the backfield too.
Yeah. And that's a good point. I think that for me, the reason I think it is easy Ayuk is just because of the upside that I don't think, not to say Debo doesn't have upside, but Ayuk's upside is like, he's going to be the guy. Like he's more of a pure wide receiver and his upside is a lot higher than Debo's is. But Debo's floor, I think, is higher because he's going to get more design plays. I think
exactly.
Because I mean, Kyle said it himself when he is making a game plan. He picks 5 or 6 plays where it's just Debo. And it's not like, oh, Debo has to get open on the play. It's like a screen. It's a reverse. It's an end around. It's stuff like that. It's pretty much going to guarantee him a few points. And we all know how hard Debo is to tackle. That one thing could turn into a 40-yard touchdown, whatever.
100%, yeah.
So it's understandable. And like you said, with value, am I taking Ayuk at the wide receiver 18, or am I taking Debo at the wide receiver 39? Right. I'm probably taking Debo at wide receiver 39.
Yeah, and then that's a like consistent floor flex play that like week in week out you could start him. Like I don't think you need to bench Debo. Like I don't think it's in that kind of position at all.
No,
like I think whoever gets Debo wants him.
Yeah, right. I don't think the gap's going to be that big this year, especially this year. Over their careers, I mean, I lean. I hope at least that Ayuk's going to be that big wide receiver one that the 49ers have needed for so long. So I lean him. But I mean, I like both of them for fantasy, honestly. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Is Lance your day one starter? If not, when do you think he starts?
When do I think Lance starts? Is he my day one starter? He's my day one starter. You know what I'm saying?
Day one starter in our hearts.
He's the day one starter in my heart. But the 49ers are a good football team with Jimmy Garoppolo. Unless their OTAs, unless their camp battle, unless the distance between skill set is so stark and Lance is so good, and I think that he is very good, but I don't know if he's going to be that good that quickly. I imagine if they're winning with Jimmy, it'll be later. If this camp battle progresses and shows that Lance is just that guy, and Kyle wants to get that going sooner than later, I like anywhere from week 4 to 6 to see if that's when they're going to play him. Otherwise, I think it's going to be later.
Yeah, so I think that, I mean, if everything goes as I think the 49ers have planned, Trey Lance doesn't start this year, because if everything is going as planned, that means Jimmy's playing well. And I mean, I believe in Jimmy to an extent. And I also believe that the way our offense is right now, you don't need to do much for us to win, because our defense is so good. Our offensive line's improved. Probably the best. We have the best receivers and the best running back that Jimmy's had. It's going to be good. I think he doesn't really need to do much. He's going to be asked to do very minimal. And I think he's going to come in. He's going to play well enough. And I don't think we want to bring in a rookie, especially a raw rookie. As much as I love Trey Lance, I want to win a Super Bowl. And our Super Bowl window's now. It's not. A lot of people have said, you don't draft a guy at 3 if you're not going to start him. But the difference is most people who draft a quarterback at 3 have that pick because they're bad. And they were bad last year. So the Jets are going to start Zach Wilson day one.
Yeah. Well, they shipped Darnold out too.
They're going to start Lawrence day one. Yes. Yeah. And that was the right choice. The 49ers don't need to do that. I don't think that was ever the plan to do that. But at the same time, I don't think Jimmy is the future. Obviously, he's not the future. It's Trey Lance. Right. But for this season, with the way that our Super Bowl window is, I think it's going to be Jimmy the whole way.
Yeah. I also think that more context needs to be given to you don't take a guy at 3 unless you're going to start him. Well, the quarterback's a little different. Before Deshaun Watson, before Patrick Mahomes, when people scouted quarterbacks, they didn't know that certain traits could actually translate to game-breaking ability if you cultivate around it, if you build around it the right way. So once that was figured out, those types of traits became way more coveted in quarterbacks, and the chances of them being a pick after the top 10 spot greatly diminished. Like if there was a draft tomorrow and Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson were in it, barring the legal issues, they're going 1 and 2. Like there is no waiting till after 10, wait a year and see how it goes. Like people are going to want those skill sets because they demonstrated, years before that if you build around them and you cultivate that it can be incredibly successful. So now that NFL teams have picked up on that, I don't think there's a chance that a quarterback like Trey Lance falls out of that top 10 anymore. Yeah. So like I think you have to take him where you take him, and then you still got to play your game. Like if it's not to start him right away, that's fine. Like that's still a fine move.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's a matter of where we took him. I think we made the decision that we needed to make to go get a guy that we think can transcend our offense and be the future.
Right.
And we did that. And I think all signs, so far in June 4th are pointing to the decision being the right one from everything that I've heard from the people who have watched him play at camp and everything. So we'll see what happens. It seems to be a pretty hot topic right now of whether or not when is he going to start. We saw firsthand with the draft that Kyle Shanahan does not show his cards. So he could think Trey Lance is starting day one and he's still trying to trade Jimmy. You just don't know. We're all just projecting. So, who knows? That's part of our job is to project, I guess. But
and there is a possibility that when Jimmy is playing, in games again, that he looks skittish the same way he did in that Dolphins game where he's just doing, in the spin cycle, in a clean pocket. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So there's a chance that if Kyle Shanahan sees any of that still in Jimmy G, he's going to want Trey in there sooner because I don't think that Trey has those kinds of issues yet at all.
Yeah. And we've seen Jimmy be just like Nick Mullins bad. We've seen it.
Seen him sail some passes.
Yeah. And we've seen him get hurt a lot. So both of those are legit reasons why Trey Lance could start sooner. I don't want Trey Lance to start sooner than he is ready to start, though. And I don't think Kyle Shanahan is going to rush him. I think if he knows that he isn't ready, he's not going to throw him out there. Like if he doesn't think he's ready week one and Jimmy gets hurt, I don't even necessarily think it's Trey Lance. It could be Josh Rosen. If it's week one, I would be surprised as well. But if he's straight up is like Trey Lance is not ready and he's going to get humiliated out there, and he's not going to put him in the game. That's just my opinion. So,
I don't know. I don't know if Trey Lance would be that much not ready. If that makes any sense.
And I don't think so either. But I'm saying if there was a world where Trey Lance just straight up wasn't ready early on, because the Packers didn't even suit up Jordan Love part of the year last year because they just thought he wasn't ready, and they put like some Boyle, whoever the dude. I don't even know who it was, but anyways, moving on to the next one. Projected stat line for Trey Sermon. So what I said was 130 touches and 700 yards, 7 touchdowns. So that is basically Jeff Wilson's stat line from last year. And I think that Trey Wilson is going to take over the Wilson workload. I don't think so. Wilson took over that because he was the only healthy back for a while. Once Mostert got hurt, and then I don't know if this was pre-hasty collarbone break or not, but he was pretty much the guy for a while in the backfield. I think that Sermon takes over the backfield. He might do it without an injury. He might just become our running back. I think that's a legitimate possibility. I also think that it's most likely there are going to be games where both Mostert and Wilson are hurt because that's just what 49ers running backs do. They get hurt. Yeah, so, they're both hurt right now. Yeah. So you say you're in agreement with that?
I would say I might go just because the Shanahan offense does like to throw a bit. I would say more in the line of like 500 on the ground and maybe like anywhere from 80 to 100 yards receiving. But I think anywhere from 5 to 7 touchdowns is accurate. That seems like what could happen. But if I'm being honest, I think Elijah Mitchell kind of shows up and he might take the gig.
He might. It's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, he's got skills that I think can be real lethal there.
I think I think it's a possibility. I'm really hoping that it's a kind of like a 1-2 punch kind of thing. More so for like my own 49er fandom, not so much fantasy. I mean, obviously you don't want a 1-2 punch for your fantasy owner, but
no, but I want the Niners to win.
But I want the Niners to win. First and foremost, a 49ers fan. Secondly, a fantasy owner. All right, so the next question comes from Deep Dive Fantasy Podcast. You can follow them at Deep Dive Fantasy. They're a bunch of great guys over there. They have a really good podcast, so I'd suggest going and listening to them if you play Dynasty at all. So how realistic do you think it is that Kittle will outproduce Kelsey in the league's other tight ends this season? So basically, what are the odds that Kittle is the tight end one?
In fantasy football, like PPR, that's what we're...
Yeah, PPR, I'm assuming this season. Well, I mean, it's just tight ends, so yeah, PPR this season.
Yeah, I mean... If he's healthy the whole season, I think it's very realistic. It's just that he's not as much of a target in the offense as often as Kelsey is. Like the Shanahan moves the ball around really well. But the thing about the thing about Kittle is that like once the ball's in his hands, he's way more liable to run through somebody and get into the end zone. So it's banking on a different type of skill set or a different type of situation. So where like Kelsey is gonna get minimum 10 targets a game. Like I'd have to look at the stats, but I'd be shocked if there were games where he gets below that. Kittle doesn't necessarily get 10 a game, but when he does, the numbers are great. But and also he's shown on games where he's had less than 10 that it's still in the end zone, or he'll still run through somebody and get those points.
4 catches for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns is a legit stat line that Kittle could have. Not that Kelsey couldn't. And I think that betting against Kelsey is pretty much a fool's game at this point. And when it comes to fantasy football, I think he's going to be the tight end one most likely. Is it possible? Oh yeah, it's definitely
very possible. Very, like if we're talking about, is it realistic? 100%. Kittle's a beast.
If I had to put money on it right now, I would probably bet Kelsey, especially in redraft. If we're talking dynasty, Kittle's my tight end one. Just because he's like 4 years younger. Plus we got the new quarterback. I think it just comes down to he's on an offense that's going to pass the ball more. A team that's going to be in the red zone more often, which is good. And the 49ers just play a different type of football than the Chiefs do.
They do. They rush a lot more too. So the Chiefs are a very potent attacking offense that's in the red zone a lot. And the passing attempts that get divvied up in Kelsey's favor do make him just kind of, that PPR nightmare.
And plus Kittle is shown to be a little bit more likely to get hurt and miss games just because the aggressive way that he plays, he's pretty much, it's like you pretty much pencil in running backs are going to miss 1-2. That's kind of how Kittle is too, just because he plays so hard and he plays so aggressive, which is good, but it's a double-edged sword, just like just about everything you do in this league. So, all right, so this is another Trey Lance when's he going to start question. This one's the over-under. So I guess if you were to put an odds on it, when do you think the over-under would be? Well, let me give you over-under, and then you can tell me over or under.
Sure. Yeah, I still lean, so like under week 6, they want to see like what he looks like.
Okay. So if I said week 7, over or under, which would you take for Trey Lance starting?
When's our bye?
Our bye is week 6, but we also play the Colts at week 7. So do we want to put them against the best defense in football?
That's a tough one.
In his first game, yeah. A revenge game for DeForest Buckner. I don't think you want that for Ricky.
No. So, and if Jimmy's playing well and we're winning games, then I have to take the over. It's over. Very early, but so this will be a good question to revisit into more camp, more OTAs and preseason.
For sure. I think it's
this will be an evolving question.
It'll be an evolving question for sure. It's definitely going to change when it comes closer. You're going to see, like you said, we're going to see more. We're going to see some preseason. I mean, Jimmy could get hurt by then. Jimmy could be so bad. Jimmy is bad usually when in practices. He's kind of known for being a bad practice quarterback. We've talked about that before. We both kind of know that Trey Lance is raw, though, like we've talked about a lot. I don't know. I just don't want him to be rushed. I'm fine with Jimmy starting for as long as he can. If the over-under was 7, I would bet the over.
Yeah, I'd take that. But so first start is kind of tricky too, because I've also read reports that they have packages with both Jimmy and Trey Lance on the field, and what I imagine would be kind of like a Taysom Hill design. I think that has become something that offensive coordinators like a lot, since seeing how effective it was when Drew Brees and Taysom Hill were both kind of doing that. Not from a great fantasy football standpoint, but it was hard to scheme against when you didn't know, is Drew Brees going to drop back or he's going to hand it to Taysom Hill. So Trey Lance could get a start, but it's not like he could just be in a red zone package where he's either a decoy or he gets a handoff.
Yeah, it's a possibility. I mean, he's a big guy. It's like Cam Newton is able to be so effective. Same with Josh Allen in the red zone, because they're just massive guys. It's like a QB sneak is hard to stop.
Yeah,
throwing a 6'5", whatever. I don't know how much he weighs, but it's hard to stop. So this one is changing things up a little bit. This one is, what is each of your top video games from each decade, 80s to 2020s? So I'll go first. With the 80s. So I played very limited 80s video games, but Super Mario Bros. 3 is probably my favorite. I think it's the best, 2D game of all time. Yeah, not really much to say. It's just a classic.
I'm going to second that.
Fair enough. Can't doubt the classics, right?
Yeah. Now, if we're moving into the 90s, so like this is Super Nintendo. This is what we're talking about.
So early 90s would be Super Nintendo. So the game I have is a Nintendo 64 game, but it was very late 90s.
Okay.
So my game was Ocarina of Time. That was 1998. That's my all-time favorite.
Okay.
That's classic. It pretty much changed the way video games were made. It's mostly a nostalgia thing for me because that was my favorite game growing up.
Yeah. Damn, I have so many for the 64. Like GoldenEye, the amount of hours I put into GoldenEye, Blitz. Did you remember Turok?
No.
No? Okay, you're just this. Man. I don't even remember the plot of that game, but you were hunting dinosaurs, but you had a lot of futuristic weapons.
Okay.
I would say probably Blitz. Oh, I played a lot of Donkey Kong. Blitz and GoldenEye were probably the ones I played the absolute most, though.
Blitz and Donkey Kong. I played a little bit of Donkey Kong. I don't think I played Blitz, though.
You never played Blitz? You never dropped the elbow on somebody after you tackle them?
Oh, you're talking about NFL Blitz?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Well, I mean, I thought, what is NFL Street then? Is that a different thing?
That is a different thing. I think that was PlayStation.
Oh, so it's just like a different company, basically. So maybe I did play NFL Blitz, but I feel like NFL Street was the first one that I played, though.
Okay. No, NFL Blitz. Oh. NFL Blitz was the N64, and you could just you drop the elbow on somebody after you made a play. Very limited play calls. I think everything was like a Hail Mary. But yeah, that you're just supposed to chuck it around, and then the hits were hilarious.
That's kind of the one where you don't really just like throw one pass, right? You're kind of throwing it back laterals and shit like that.
I think you do. There's a lot of lateral play, a lot of goofy football strategy, but that was like the point of it was to be silly, and it was awesome.
I gotcha. So moving on to the 2000s. So this one I said MVP Baseball 2005. Did you ever play that? PS2?
I did not. I didn't really play any baseball games.
So that one is probably, in my opinion, the best baseball game of all time with the best soundtrack. The soundtrack was so good. Just a classic. That's my 2000s. What about you?
So 2000s, I'm thinking PlayStation.
I would say PS2. Late 64. Honestly, GoldenEye could have been 2000s. It could have been like 2001. But we can just say like
that late?
I don't know. I mean, I know. So like Majora's Mask, that one was 2001.
Okay.
So, and that would be around the same era as GoldenEye.
Okay. because in my head, I've got Metal Gear Solid in my head. I think that's 2000s. So like the original Metal Gear Solid was bonkers. There was a boss that was a psychic, and in order to beat him, you had to unplug your controller from the controller 1 port and plug it into the controller 2 port so that he couldn't read your mind as effectively.
No way.
So when I saw that a game, dude, that changed my whole world with what you could do with video games. And yeah, I was like, well, this is an innovative game, and it was a lot of fun.
It's crazy to think of how that is innovative. And now it's like we have VR headsets and shit.
Yep.
It's like, oh, I had to plug it into, player 2.
Yep.
Mind boggling.
That's just so he couldn't read my mind. It made total sense to me.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, that's all it needs to do is make sense to you, right?
Yeah.
Let's move on to 2010s. So mine is Breath of the Wild. Have you played that? Another Zelda game.
That was for Switch?
Yeah, for Switch. It's like an open world. Skyrim meets Zelda. It's kind of how I would describe it.
Yeah.
Pretty much just like, it's just a well done game all around. Best animation, hours and hours and hours of gameplay just because the map is so big.
Yeah.
Super fun game, though. I'd highly suggest it if you are into open world games at all.
Yeah. See, I feel like doing it by decades leaves out so many games. Because, like, where's Mass Effect? When did that come out?
Mass Effect, I would say, would be 2010s.
Okay. So
Early
I love that series.
Mass Effect 2 was the good one, right? Because there was 3 of them, right?
There were 3. 1 and 2 were amazing.
1 and 2 were really good.
3 looks great, but the story wasn't as cool as the second.
A little shaky.
Yeah. Yeah. So that would be up there. The God of War series would absolutely be up there. I just had
Xbox, so I haven't played any of those.
But like Halo, that would absolutely like that. That's got to be on the list too. I mean, that game, I put so many hours into Halo. That was one of the first games too, where like all your buddies wanted to play. Like they wanted to group up and play that.
Yeah, Halo was big with the whole like making multiplayer what it is.
Right.
Like get on with all your friends and just like
100%.
Troll people in Halo.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we can move on from that unless you have anything else to add to that.
If we're talking about games in the right now kind of era, I would say that the newest God of War for PlayStation 4 is like my favorite game that I've played. Otherwise, I just do a lot of multiplayer right now with like Warzone and like Apex. I think those games are a lot of fun. Overwatch, I think is really great. Yeah,
battle royales are kind of the just kind of like what everyone seems to be playing right now for the most part. Yeah, just because they're fun, and they're new, and that's kind of what it's kind of taken over the community a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, so this one's a dynasty question from Livin216 Legend. Which side do you prefer? He's a dynasty 1 QB PPR. J.K. Dobbins or David Montgomery and Michael Pittman?
Oh, so I have to. Oh, so it's J.K. Dobbins versus Monty.
So he has J.K. Dobbins. He got offered the trade of David Montgomery and Michael Pittman. So he's asking, should he accept the trade?
I really like David Montgomery. I would say yes if you believe that Pittman has the upside, and I think Pittman had to have a lot of upside. Just because I think Monty is so safe. Like I think he's a great running back. And I don't think that the drop off between J.K. Dobbins and Monty in terms of the PPR value that you're going to get, or like the fantasy football value that you get, I don't think that's going to be that big of a number. I think it'll be negligible. So if there's a negligible drop off between Dobbins and Monty and you get upside with Pittman and you think Pittman's good, I'd say pull the trigger.
So I am on the opposite side of that. So
okay.
I say J.K. Dobbins is worth more by himself because just the upside that he brings that Monty doesn't really have. Pittman does, but he also has a lot lower of a floor than Dobbins does. Dobbins is on, a good offense that's going to run the ball. They're going to have red zone opportunities. He's going to get a lot of catches. Last year, he was super efficient with his catches. He's young. He's got a great profile. I just think that the gap is too big. Especially when RB1s are, not hard to come by. I mean, because obviously there's the same amount of them every year, but it's so important with that high tier, because a lot of times you're trading, a group of guys. If you're trading a group of guys for one guy, you want the guy that's going to be in that tier above, like that blue chip guy. And
Yeah,
Dobbins has the ability to be that, and Monty just doesn't for me.
well, maybe I'm sleeping on Dobbins a little hard, but I don't see him in the tier 1 category, just because like how many of his red zone attempts are gonna be rushed in by Lamar?
And that is a thing too. I mean, he's my RB9 in Dynasty.
Yeah.
So I'm not putting him in the same category. And I think there are people who are like J.K. Dobbins RB5. I'm not that high on him, but
I want to do that.
I actually might be my RB10, 9 or 10. I don't remember. But it's just, for me, you want those, those, if you can get your hands on one of those top 12 guys, it's just worth it to me. I think Monty is underrated.
Yeah,
sure.
I think he's incredibly underrated. That's why I lean towards this trade.
Yeah. But I still would take J.K. Dobbins. I just think, you got to go get those guys. Those are the guys that win you leagues. Not that Monty can't win you a league, because he was the RB4 last year.
That's what I'm saying. Like he did it. Like he quietly had a great season.
Yeah.
And Dobbins in that offense where they just went so wide receiver heavy, and Lamar's already liable to run it in the red zone. But I don't think it's set up for Dobbins to have such a dominant performance that he's an undisputed, RB1 tier player.
Yeah. And that's a fair argument too. And it also depends on like the makeup of your team a little bit. I mean, I don't think it really does too much, because I mean, if you're trying to compete, maybe, or if you have like zero depth, but for the most part, for me, I just think the upside for Dobbins is too much.
Yeah.
He's gonna get a big workload out of the backfield, and we saw what Mark Ingram did towards the end, his last year of relevance, where he was, a top 5 running back. And Dobbins, at this point in his career, if he's what he should be better than what Mark Ingram was when he was, 29, 30.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's tough. The hard part about Dynasty is weighing that upside versus what you have already seen, because you don't want to look too far backwards, because then you're just playing in the past, right?
Right.
But you also need to be able to look at, you don't want to play every single pick just on upside, right?
Right. Yeah. Do they still like to feed Gus Edwards?
So he's still on the team. I don't know how much he's actually going to be involved in the offense. I mean, it's tough to tell.
Wouldn't count him out either.
No, and I don't know. It's tough. I still like J.K. Dobbins more, just because I do want I do like the upside there. I'm sorry we gave you the opposite answers. So but for me, I would say don't accept that trade. He also said that he got offered David Montgomery and Jalen Reagor. Does that change anything for you?
No,
basically
not really.
Switching out Pittman and Reagor. I like Pittman better than Reagor. So
yeah, I really like Reagor as the player, but they just went and got Devonta Smith. Like they're going to be the targets aren't just going to be going to Reagor for those deep shots.
Yeah, and Pittman has the ability to come in and be the wide receiver 1. And
he's got the skill set.
And we've talked about Carson Wentz, how we like Carson Wentz and think that he has the ability to be an elite quarterback.
If he's got a clean pocket, he can sling it.
Yeah, if he's got a clean pocket. So I don't know. It's tough to say. I would definitely take, if you're going to accept one of those, take the Pittman one.
Yeah. Because let's an interesting conversation is like, where do you put Pittman? Like, is he a wide receiver 3? Do you think he's a 3 with upside? Do you think he's a flex with upside? Like, where I don't know if I can put him in wide receiver 2 territory, but
yeah, he's definitely
a wide
receiver 3 flex. I mean, it's along the same lines as Dobbins. How much upside do you want to play? I mean, Pittman does have that upside. I mean, they do have Paris Campbell, who's another upside guy, who's even that guy, even deeper than Pittman would be. But
he was looking real good, and then he got injured last year.
Yeah, he's like an off the charts analytic guy. Like his, I don't know what his 40 time was, but it was like off the charts. Dude's a freak.
But with the Colts, we also know that is going to be heavily run oriented. Yeah. That's going to be the Jonathan Taylor show.
Yeah, it's going to be the Taylor show. A little bit of Nyheim Hines, probably.
Like a little bit when Taylor's thirsty.
Yeah,
Gatorade. Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I would probably say don't take the trade, stick with Dobbins. He said the opposite, but
I think we both gave good arguments to, he could choose from those, whatever he's feeling. Yeah,
that's fair. All right, so I think that about wraps it up for the show. We should be putting this out. You can rewatch it, obviously. I guess if you're here now, you already have rewatched it. But make sure to check us out on YouTube, sub. We'll be doing more of these as time goes on, doing some more lives, doing a lot of different stuff. We're trying to get involved in as much different things as we can. We'll hopefully be able to get a little bit involved in fantasy, whether it's from a completely different show or whatever it is.
Like a fantasy segment.
Yeah, fantasy segment. It'll be something. So if you're here and you're not a 49ers fan, but you are interested in fantasy, still keep an eye on what we're doing. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on our sub to YouTube, all that fun stuff. So,
and I'll pledge to you this: if you're here and you're not a 49ers fan, we're gonna make you one.
Yeah, you're wrong.
Yeah, you've been living a falsehood that we will show you the truth.
Yeah, you've been living a lie your whole life. So
yeah.
All right, guys, thanks for coming. We'll see you next time.
Yes, take it easy.
Sounds like football, baby.
Feels great, baby.